Hello and welcome back to the Electronic Intifada's live stream for Thursday, February 6th. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleagues Ali Abunimah, Jon Elmer, Asa Winstanley, and Tamara Nassar. It's day 19 of the ceasefire after 15 months of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Coming up, we'll speak with Asem Alnabih, an engineer and the spokesperson for the Gaza City Municipality, about the present reality of Gaza and what it will really take to rebuild it. And later on in the program, Jon will break down the Qassam Brigade's show of strength during the fourth handover of prisoners in Gaza. But first, here's a brief summary of some of the latest developments this week in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Despite the ceasefire, Israeli forces still in the south of the Gaza Strip killed 2 Palestinians in Rafah on Wednesday. A child was shot in the chest by an Israeli sniper in central Rafah, hours after occupation forces opened fire at civilians in eastern Khan Yunis, killing a man. As people continue to return to their homes in the north and the south, the local government and human rights groups say that Israel is not fulfilling its obligations under the ceasefire agreement regarding the entry of necessary humanitarian relief and shelter aid. Access to safe water, especially in the north, is still a daily struggle, and Palestinians are still unable to procure adequate temporary shelters and materials to protect themselves from the winter cold. The Gaza government media office stated on February 3rd that according to the ceasefire protocol, quote, 60,000 caravans and 200,000 temporary tents were supposed to be brought into the Gaza Strip to accommodate the displaced people of our honorable Palestinian people whose homes, housing units, and residential neighborhoods were destroyed by the Israeli occupation. 600 trucks containing aid and fuel are also supposed to enter each day, the media office said, in addition to medical and health services and equipment, quote, necessary to rehabilitate humanitarian services in the Gaza Strip. However, the government media office says the Israeli occupation is creating obstacles and procrastinating in the implementation of this agreement, quote, which exacerbates the humanitarian crisis and doubles the suffering of the civilian population in the Gaza Strip, and this will have serious and unprecedented repercussions and effects. Euromed Human Rights Monitor says that the humanitarian situation has not improved since the ceasefire was implemented on January 19th. In a report, the human rights group says that, quote, nearly all forms of aid remain disrupted, and the urgent humanitarian needs of the Strip's roughly 2.3 million residents have not been met. Though the number of trucks entering the Gaza Strip has increased, Euromed says, their preliminary analysis of the volume and type of aid entering the enclave reveals that some of it are non-essential items. The rights group adds that only about 35% of the 8,500 trucks that have been let in since the ceasefire have been able to enter northern Gaza. Medical devices and essential equipment needed to resume hospital operations, such as MRI machines, have not yet arrived in Gaza. In terms of necessary municipal infrastructure, Euromed Human Rights Monitor says that about 85% of the water wells in Gaza have been destroyed, and Israel has forbidden the importation of supplies to repair and restore them. According to estimates from the Gaza Municipality and the Northern Gaza Strip municipalities, 100 wells in the northern Gaza Valley need to be restored and repaired immediately. None have been fixed thus far, Euromed says. We'll have more on the state of the infrastructure in Gaza, particularly northern Gaza, later on in this broadcast. The health sector, meanwhile, remains in ruins. Izzadeen Lulu, a medical student, filmed himself walking through the wreckage of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza, this week.
Hello everyone, it's Izzadeen Lulu, a sixth-year medical student from northern Gaza. This is our first time entering Kamal Adwan Hospital since the Israeli forces raided and occupied this hospital. This is where doctors and medical staff made their last stand, and where patients found refugee away from the bombs of the occupation until it was too late. As you see, there is so much destruction made to the hospital. It will take a lot of time and effort to rebuild. For now, we Gazans are trying to assess how we can move in and into rebuilding our beloved Gaza, inshallah.
That was Izzadeen Lulu, a sixth-year medical student. Kamal Adwan's director, the pediatrician Hossam Abu Safiya, is still in Israeli detention at the Ofer military prison and continues to be denied access to a lawyer. The Rafah crossing nominally reopened this past week for patients in Gaza needing medical evacuation. The United Nations says that there are between 12,000 and 14,000 patients needing to access care outside of Gaza, but only a few dozen Palestinians have been medically evacuated through the Rafah crossing as of Wednesday. International fugitive and war crimes suspect Benjamin Netanyahu was welcomed to the White House this week, where President Donald Trump asserted that the U.S. will, quote, own Gaza, and claimed that he has plans to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from Gaza while it is rebuilt, similar plans to those asserted by former U.S. President Joe Biden and his Secretary of State Antony Blinken during the 15-month genocide. Palestinian human rights groups and Palestinian civil society have broadly rebuked these statements. The Electronic Intifada's Ali Abunimah posted on Twitter/X that, quote, there is no plan and, more importantly, no means for an American occupation and annexation of Gaza. Donald Trump will not will into existence what 15 months of unlimited Biden-armed Israeli barbarity failed to produce. The rights group Al-Haq stated on Wednesday that, quote, instead of supporting rebuilding efforts at scale to reconstitute what Israel's genocidal machinery has destroyed, the U.S. administration has announced its clear participation in Israel's genocide in Gaza, the latest plan in the ongoing Nakba, intended to fragment and destroy the Palestinian people and deny Palestinians their inalienable right to self-determination. Al-Haq adds, quote, we emphasize that the only plan that should be on the table following the ceasefire is one that upholds the rights of the Palestinian people of self-determination and return. This entails the rights of the Palestinians in Gaza to choose their own future, remain in their land, and rebuild it. Trump's suggestion of forcible displacement to end the death and destruction in Gaza is telling of the U.S. administration's complicity and direct participation in the genocide. It is further a violation of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, fueling the ongoing Nakba of the Palestinian people. We warn that Trump's administration is a serious threat to not only the Palestinian people, but all of humanity. We'll have more on the rebuilding of Gaza coming up in a few minutes. We've published many features on the Electronic Intifada in the last week, but we wanted to highlight excerpts of this one by Abdullah Yunus, writing from Gaza. Abdullah reports on a poetry reading in Deir Balah in central Gaza that took place just a few weeks before the ceasefire. Since October 2023, Abdullah writes, Israel has killed an unknowable number of poets and writers. Estimates of those killed are available, and they vary depending on the source. But the extent of the carnage wrought on Gaza's literary community is something that will never be known. Poet Basil Abu al-Sheikh leaned forward in his chair toward a crowd of about 50 people to recite his poem. It was late December, and we had gathered in this camp west of Deir Balah in central Gaza to listen to the works of those poets present. The sun was setting, and the tents glowed orange as a cold breeze reminded us of the harshness of displacement in winter. The Israeli occupation planes and drones could be heard above us. Some of those gathered sat on the ground, covering themselves with worn blankets or burlap sacks, while others sat on plastic chairs. Abu al-Sheikh recited his poem in a defiant yet sad tone. The shackles have wounded my heart, not my wrists, and the night has made my eyes sleepless like the stars. Neither tears nor blood are enough, and I no longer know whether my tears or blood have flowed. Abu al-Sheikh, 55, the author of the novel Palestinian Sorrows, was one of several poets who had helped organize the reading. He said he had hoped the gathering would provide a space for expression among the displaced in the camp, something to help them make sense of the long months of horrors inflicted on the Palestinians in Gaza. He said that the poem he read was about his arrest by the Israeli army in December 2023 and his imprisonment for 4 months. At the time, Abu al-Sheikh lived in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza with his family of 6. The family had sought shelter at the Kamal Adwan hospital in Beit Lahia, further north, during Israeli bombings. Yet Abu al-Sheikh was arrested from the hospital and would not be released from Israeli imprisonment until March 2024. While in prison, Abu al-Sheikh was tortured mentally and physically, yet the worst of it still awaited him. Upon his release, he was prevented from returning to his family by the Israeli military and was forced to head south. There, he learned that his eldest son had been killed in an Israeli airstrike in January 2024. Since then, Abu al-Sheikh has lived in the camp in a tent alone. Poets and writers give people hope and encourage them to endure the tragedies of war, he said. That's an excerpt from Abdullah Yunus's feature, Gaza's Poets Never Stopped Writing, on electronicintifada.net. Turning to the occupied West Bank, dozens of Palestinians have been killed in the northern city of Jenin and the Jenin refugee camp as Israel's raid and siege of the area entered its 3rd consecutive week. Raids and assaults by Israeli forces in nearby towns and villages have also expanded. In 𝐓𝐿 Israeli attacks have displaced approximately 75% of Palestinians from their homes in the 𝐓𝐿 refugee camp, while Israeli forces have prevented the entry of medicine, food, and essential supplies, according to local officials. My colleague Tamara Nassar reports that, quote, the Israeli military carried out several aerial bombardments in densely populated civilian areas and caused widespread destruction of infrastructure and homes across Jenin camp that Reuters said was, quote, on a scale not seen there for over 20 years. Israeli troops bulldozed all the roads leading to Jenin refugee camp and the city, as well as a number of roads within them. The vast majority of camp residents have been displaced under Israeli orders, some of them even searched and arrested on the way out of the camp. The Palestinian human rights group Al-Haq stated that the remaining families are living in grave danger with no access to water, electricity, and other basic services. At least 150 homes in Jenin have been severely damaged by the Israeli attack, according to the UN. Tamara adds that on February 1st, the Israeli military razed nearly 24 buildings in simultaneous bombings. Juliette Touma from the UN Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, said that the detonations happened, quote, when children were supposed to go back to school. She added that 13 schools in the camp and nearby areas are shuttered, affecting 5,000 children. The UN agency's services in the camp have been interrupted for months and had to be completely halted in early December during the assault by the Palestinian Authority. UNRWA apparently had no warning of the detonations, as there is no longer contact between its staff and the Israeli military since Israel shuttered the agency's operations last month. The Wall Street Journal reported that the bombings resembled a tactic used in Gaza, where the Israeli military created corridors to divide the enclave. An Israeli attack decapitated a 14-year-old boy in Jenin on the same day, Tamara reports. A missile that Israel fired from a drone without warning killed Ahmed 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 while he was in the courtyard outside his family's home, according to a field investigation by Defense for Children International Palestine. There was no presence of Israeli troops in the immediate area at the time. Israeli forces have killed at least 11 Palestinian children in the West Bank since the start of the year, 7 by drone strikes and 4 others by live ammunition. This toll does not include 3 Palestinian children killed during the Palestinian Authority's raid on the Jenin refugee camp, which started in the first week of December and concluded in January. For more on the situation in Jenin, read Tamara Nassar's report, Israeli Genocidal Violence Reaches West Bank on electronicintifada.net. And in the southern occupied West Bank, meanwhile, heavily armed Israeli settlers have attacked areas including Masafar Yatta near Al-Khalil. Activist, journalist, and filmmaker Bassel Adra filmed the settler attack in Masafar Yatta on Monday evening. He stated that the settlers smashed and destroyed Palestinians' cars, attacked homes, and damaged water tanks. Finally, as we always do, we wanted to share images of people expressing determination and resilience in the aftermath of Israel's 15-month campaign of destruction. In northern Gaza, a man responds to Donald Trump's absurd claims about Gaza. Quote, "They're saying that Trump wants to forcibly displace Gaza's people," he says. "Gaza's people here are digging a well, and they are rebuilding Gaza from scratch. I swear you have your work cut out for you with Gazawis, and you're in for a long ride. You're in for a long ride," he says.
بقول لك ترامب بده يهجر أهل غزة. ولك أهل غزة قاعدين بفحروا بير مية ورجعوا يبنوها من أول وجديد. والله قصتكم قصة مع الغزاز والصار طوالي.
And that's it for the news roundup. As always, go to electronicintifada.net for much more, especially to read our new features by our brave writers in Gaza. And you're watching the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleague Ali Abunimah. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Nora. Thank you for that. And here in Amman, it's been raining and cold and very windy for the last 2 days. And it's the same storm that's hitting Gaza. And it's all I can think about when I hear the wind whipping outside.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that with our next guest.
We will. Let's go for it. I'm so excited to have him here with us.
All right. Thanks, Nora. And just a reminder that you're watching or listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Ali Abunimah here with my colleague, Nora Barrows-Friedman. And by now, everyone has heard about US President Donald Trump's dangerous fantasy of ethnically cleansing the Gaza Strip of its entire population, some 2 million Palestinians, forcing them to go to Jordan and Egypt, and then turning Gaza into a luxury playground for the rich. Let's take a look at a couple of clips of the president's comment to set up our next discussion. Let's take a look at the first one.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
And let's take a look at one more clip.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very.
So Israeli leaders, including Benjamin Netanyahu, who you saw right there grinning next to President Trump, have reacted with glee. That includes so-called opposition leader Benny Gantz and far-right politician Itamar Ben-Gvir, who said he would return to Netanyahu's coalition government only when he saw Palestinians starting to leave Gaza. But within hours of those comments at the White House on Tuesday, Trump administration officials were walking the president's comments back amid a huge international uproar. Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia flatly rejected Trump's comments. Saudi Arabia said its insistence on a Palestinian state before any normalization of relations with Israel was, quote, non-negotiable. It quickly emerged that the idea seems to have come from Trump without any previous planning within the US government or even coordination with Israel. We'll talk more about that later in the program. Notwithstanding the sheer illegality and depraved immorality of ethnic cleansing, it was clear that no thought had gone into how the United States would occupy and own Gaza, as Trump put it, or how it would defeat and remove the Palestinian resistance that had humiliated the Israeli army for 15 months and forced it to retreat. And who would finance the massive reconstruction? Trump made clear it would not be the United States. Was the president seriously proposing to send the US military to Gaza, the same US military that was incapable of building a floating pier off Gaza's coast after spending $230 million on it? You may remember this story from back in July. Today, Trump confirmed that he wasn't proposing to send any US troops to occupy Gaza, claiming in a post on his Truth Social website that, quote, the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting, and that no soldiers by the US would be needed. But even if the plan appeared to fall apart almost immediately, it has set off alarms and exacerbated fears that the ethnic cleansing of Gaza is Israel's ultimate goal. After all, Israel only exists due to the mass ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from their homeland in 1948 and ever since. The fulfillment of the Zionist project is predicated on the expulsion of the Palestinian people from their land. As long as Zionism exists, Palestinians can never be safe. That is just as true in the West Bank, where many Israelis are undoubtedly optimistic that Trump will bless Israel's formal annexation of the illegally occupied territory, something that Trump has also hinted at in recent days by pointing out how small Israel is on the map. So what Trump was stating in starkly crude terms is the essential logic of Zionism, past, present, and future, a logic that is overwhelmingly supported by the Israeli Jewish public. And the idea that Trump spouted, specifically with respect to Gaza, is not new. Almost a year ago, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who served as the architect of the so-called Abraham Accords in the first Trump administration, spun a similar fantasy. Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable, Kushner said in an interview, as the genocide in Gaza accelerated. Kushner added, it's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. That sounds very similar to what Trump said in his press conference with Netanyahu on Tuesday. Well, you won't be surprised to learn that it is being reported that Kushner played a key role in crafting Trump's comments. And you may remember back in October 2023, in the first days of the genocide, there was a leaked document from Israel's intelligence ministry setting out a plan to force the population of Gaza into Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. At the time, Netanyahu's office downplayed the plan as merely an initial document of the kind that can be found in dozens of iterations at all levels of government. It claimed that the document had not been discussed at any official forum in Israel. But in May of 2024, Netanyahu's office issued a PowerPoint presentation for its so-called Gaza 2035 plan, where Gaza would supposedly be turned into a high-tech free trade zone ruled by Arab collaborators under Israeli control and all financed by Gulf money. According to the Jerusalem Post, Netanyahu's plan also says that if such an intervention is successful in Gaza, it can be repeated in Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon. And of course, there was the so-called General's Plan, an unofficial scheme Israel apparently attempted to implement to completely and permanently depopulate northern Gaza. Although various Israeli politicians and generals openly fantasize about expelling the population of Gaza, Israel's government has never explicitly said that is the ultimate goal, even if Netanyahu and those close to him yearn for that outcome. it is clear that Israel has acted as if that's the goal. Its deliberate mass murder by bombing and mass destruction of Gaza's housing and infrastructure, healthcare system, its deliberate blocking of food and humanitarian aid to starve the population. All this can only have had one intention: to make Gaza uninhabitable and force its population to seek sustainable life somewhere else. And of course, all that was done with the full knowledge and unconditional assistance of the United States under the administration of President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Indeed, Israel could not have done it without the Democratic Party administration's full support. The reality, however, is that after more than 15 months of genocide and indiscriminate destruction, the Palestinian people did not leave Gaza. And we just saw 10 days ago how hundreds of thousands of Palestinians returned home to the north as soon as the coastal road was opened as part of the ongoing ceasefire and prisoner exchange deal. Joining us now is someone who is intimately familiar with the realities in Gaza. He is an engineer and PhD researcher, and he serves as the spokesperson for the Gaza City Municipality. He is also a regular contributor to the Electronic Intifada. I'm really pleased and honored to welcome Asem and Alnabih to the Electronic Intifada live stream. Welcome, Asem.
Oh no, we lost
Asem,
sound.
we've lost your sound.
No.
We're going to try and get it back. Of course, we tested the sound before we went live, and everything worked. So this is how it is. We'll figure it out in a second. Let's see what we can do. Tamara is working behind the scenes.
Oh, I still can't hear. So, over the last 15 months, we've been, quoting from Asem's incredible reporting from Gaza City as the spokesperson for the municipality. I know that I've, almost every live stream news report that I write every week has something from Asem in it, either, from his contributions as a feature writer for the Electronic Intifada or through his work at the municipality. And what he and his colleagues have done is unbelievable, within the constraints of what they're able to do now. Asem, are you here?
Yes, I am.
We can hear you. That's wonderful.
Wonderful. All right. So thank you so much for joining us, Asem.
I was preparing like an introduction, but I lost it. So
It's okay.
Thank you for
go ahead.
Thank you for having me today, and I would like to thank you, Ali, and also especially greetings to you. We believe that you tried something like many Palestinians. 2 weeks ago, you were in a prison. So respect and love from Gaza. And to all Electronic Intifada team, it's my pleasure, actually, and my honor to be with you today to talk about our beloved city, Gaza.
Thank you so much,
It's
Asem.
our honor. Yeah.
Thank you. It really is our honor. And of course, we're going to talk about the situation in Gaza City. But before you became an engineer and before you began your work with the Gaza Municipality, you were a friend and a student of our beloved Professor Refaat Alareer, who was murdered in the genocide on December 6, 2023, along with several relatives. This week, Asem, you performed an exceptionally difficult and important task in locating Refaat's body and moving him to a permanent gravesite. Please tell us about that and what it means to you. And some of these photos that we're showing are the ones you posted on your social media accounts of the grave.
To be honest, I would like to apologize for my weird accent. I had a great teacher, but I'm not. And also, I knew Refaat 25 years ago. When I was 9 or 10 years ago, my father sent me to a summer camp. I saw this beautiful guy there. He was like 19 years old or 20 years old, and he taught us how to sing like some, some Palestinian cultural songs. I can still remember that word till now. So then he has a very good connections with my family. Also, my uncle, Dr. Hassan, was his teacher at the Islamic University of Gaza, and also we have like a family relation. Like his cousin got married with my sister, so also we are relative, like somehow. We did some projects together, so I can say that he was my friend, my colleague, my mentor, my supervisor, my teacher, my family friend, and even we had a special experience, like to live together in this genocide. We walked together, we talked, we ate together, we searched for water, we escaped from a place to place, we searched for internet, and he called it the long way for internet. So I want to start from your question. 2 calls from his mother. 3 weeks ago, his mother, a very beautiful woman, respected lady, Hani, we call it 𝐄𝐥𝐞 Hani, Auntie Hani. She called and she said, Asem, please, I want to feel comfortable. I want to find Refaat, I want to move him. And I know you were close to each other, so please let us do it. Then I said, this is was 2 days before the ceasefire. So I told her, yes, this is my goal now. Just let us do it. So it became my dream, became my goal, and my daily routine in the last 2 weeks, like searching, finding. And I can't say it was easy. It was very difficult looking. And I don't think this is a popular experience. People didn't used to search for their friends in a makeshift graveyards or and just 2 hours ago, I received another call from his mother. She called me 2 days ago after we returned his body back to 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐿, the neighborhood where he lived, where was he born and lived, and we met also in 𝐄𝐥𝐿 for the first time. And she called me. She told me, now I can sleep well, Asem, after, because she lost 4 of her kids, like Refaat, Hamada, and Salah, and her daughter Asma. So and also 4 of her nephews, grandsons. So it's a big loss for her also. She called 2 hours ago and she said, Asem, I saw Refaat in my dream last night. And he was wearing a white dress, a very white dress, a very clean one. And she wanted to give him a watch. Then she told me after I saw him, he was wearing a very beautiful watch, even better and even nicer of my gifts. And she told me, I can't understand. What does that mean? So I told her, I don't know, but maybe this is like wearing a white dress means that he's in a good place. And maybe the watch that he is, it's like maybe he is staying eternally in a nice place. So I told her, sorry, I can't really explain the dreams, but this is what came to my mind exactly after you told me about that dream. So between the two calls, actually, we spent a very difficult moment. And if I want to talk about the details, it is very, very, very difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy to search in a makeshift graveyard looking for names. We are not talking about headstones with, excellent handwritten or printed names. No. You are just searching in cartoons or papers, tape notes, and on literally on the sands. And a lot of them, it's already erased. A lot of makeshift graves are not really clear if this is a ground or if this is a graves, I searched in 4 makeshift cemeteries. I read maybe more than 1,000 notes. Actually, I met numerous people, like potential people who may participated or saw something. But after a lot of searching, we found a guy who participated in that day. So we went to the place. He showed us where is exactly believed that Refaat and his brother and his sister Asma and another 4 nephews. And one of the things that shocked me that there was no exact number about how many persons were with Refaat. Like even like his son said 8, his neighbor said 9, his brother-in-law said 7. So like his relatives doesn't know exactly how many people with him because nobody participated. No, I mean even his close friends, even his close family. I know on that day it was like extensive and intensive targeting on Gaza, especially the month after the temporary ceasefire. It ends on the beginning of December, and then we lost a lot of people on that month. And also the day of digging, I was literally afraid of that day. I brought the body bags, I brought the gloves, I brought the everything necessary. Then I searched for a specialist. I said, we need a specialist to help us digging for bodies, human bodies. Then there is no one, because everyone said there is a lot of cases like Refaat, thousands like Refaat. So everyone is taking care of his loved ones. So we went to the place. I informed his father, his mother, everyone, his friends, and we went to that place. We started to dig, and I can tell you that my heart just stopped for a moment after we start to see the fabric, because on that time they used to put people just in covers, a fabric covers, blankets. Then they just put them in the ground because no resources on that time. So when I saw the corner of that fabric, a part of that fabric, my heart just stopped for a moment. There is a lot of details. I'm not sure if the people would be able to listen to the details. Carrying your friend, like the bones of your friends, not your friend. opening that blanket to check to know him from his clothes. Like I'm shaking now. So after we did all of that, we carried Refaat, we put him in a body plastic bag. We couldn't find a full body of Refaat, unfortunately. We found a full body for his brother Salah. Another brother knew him from his T-shirt, and he said, "Yeah, this is Salah's T-shirt." But we couldn't find Refaat's body as Refaat, so we put 4 people in one body plastic bag. One of them was Refaat, and since I am the last living person who met Refaat on that day, just 15 minutes before he was martyred. So people asked me, check, you may know from his T-shirt. And I had to look, I had to see. So I'm sorry I'm sorry to Refaat. I apologize to Refaat that I couldn't realize, I couldn't know. Sorry again for you to talk about these details, but Refaat was a professor. He is a respected man in Gaza, professor at the university, a genius man, researcher, writer, author. He deserved better than that. And everyone, actually, every single man in Gaza deserves proper grief, just proper grief. And when I talked to my friends during the war, I was telling them, my dream is just, I want to be one piece. I want to die in one piece and to have my own grave. I don't want to be with others I don't want to share a grave with others. So this was our dream during the war. And I hope that no one in the world should live this experience. We moved him. We moved him to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 to Ibn Marwan cemetery. 7 people. We found 7 people. Refaat Alareer, Salah Alareer, his brother, Ismail Alareer, his sister, and the other 4 nephews. We tried for 4 days to find the graves in Gaza, because it's fully now, the graveyards in Gaza, there is no space. So people, what they did in the few months, they used to open the old graves. Like if you have an auntie or uncle or father or mother, people used to open that grave and put the new bodies there because there is no space. We are talking about thousands of people. And I talked to many people that we need graves, this is we just need graves. And we got only 2 graves for 7 people. So they shared their suffering, they shared their death, and they shared their makeshift graveyard, and then they shared their eternal grave, 2 graves in 𝐓𝐡𝐞. But at least we saw them, we built them, we cleaned that area, we did our cultural, his father was a great man. I used to hear about him, Refaat's father. Then, because in our religion we do speech, a short speech after we put our loved one in the grave. So people ask me to do it. But then I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't say anything now. And they said, no, we know you are the spokesman. You can do it. Then I said, no, his father should do it. Then I went to his father in that moment. And I told him, Father, please do it. And he said, what can I say? They said, no, just start and you will. And he said a perfect, like a perfect speech about Refaat and his brother, his sister. Like I felt that, oh my God, that's what I needed in that moment. So Refaat came back to his neighborhood. I apologize for him because I feel like a bit comfortable about that. I shouldn't, because there is thousands of people still under the rubble. There's thousands of people are still missing. So his story, Refaat's story, is not a unique story. There's thousands of people still need to be moved. You need to find them first. Then you need to move. You need to find another alternative place for them, a grave in Gaza. Then you need to dig to find them, to find their bones, to find their remains. Then put them in a plastic body bag, which is very difficult to get it again. I went to the hospital and I said, I need 8 body bags. And I said, no, we can't give you only 4. And I said, what? I need 8 because we have 8 bodies. And they said, no, we can't. We have only limited amount of body bags. So I got only 4 and instead of 8. So there is, like, our suffering, there is a lot of deep details in that suffering. We can't just conclude it in starvation. There is a lot of details under that word. We can't just like genocide. I mean, I can't. Look, we are a simple people. Like I don't know. I am an engineer, a researcher. I am not a politician. I don't understand the political issues. But what I understand now from my academic background, that no word can really explain what happened but genocide. Refaat's story, clearly it's a genocide. He was a great man. Till now, till the last moment, I was telling myself that no. He's still alive. He's joking, because we know Refaat. He used to do this kind of comedy. But after we put him in that grave, I said, no, it's true that we lost him. Not me, not you. Everyone in this world lost Refaat. A very pure guy, a very simple soul, a genius man, a very smart human. Like, we are all losers because we lost Refaat. But again, he paid for his message. He tried his best to convey his message to the people, and he paid his soul, his blood, to show the truth to the people. So we have to choose whether we want to see it or just to neglect it and to say no, nothing happening in Gaza, and to propose a nice ideas like relocating the people there or whatever the politicians are saying right now in the world. May he rest in peace. Eternally, he deserved that. and I'm planning for like gathering for his students and his teachers and his colleagues soon, after we prepare a nice headstone with his nice poetry, "If I Must Die." We will engrave it on his grave. I'm trying to do that, inshallah, next week. Then we will do a nice gathering there, talk about him, share our nice stories and jokes with him, to make his dream true. That like, because he told us what is his dream. Like, if I must die, you must live. To tell his story.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Asem. You cut out for a second.
Awesome. We lost you for a second, and but you're back, and I think we're all speechless listening to you. And what you told us is extraordinarily difficult to listen to, even. But what you did is an act of great love for your friend. I think it's the biggest act of love I can imagine, and for his family, for his mother, but for all the people, for his students, for his friends, and for all the people around the world who loved him, who got to know him even after he died, and who he continues to influence. And the point you make about this being the situation of thousands of families, thousands of people, every single one of them deserves dignity. And you gave that dignity to Refaat and his brother and sister and Refaat's nephews who were murdered together in that attack. And that's something extraordinary. And we're incredibly grateful to you for sharing that story with us. Awesome. I don't know if I think the sound is, we've lost the sound again.
We lost the sound again. Hopefully we can get it back.
It's okay. We'll see if we can reconnect. And while we reconnect, I mean, just listening to Asem, it's, Asem announced just 2 days ago on his social media accounts that they had located Refaat's body and that of his brother and sister and other relatives and moved them to 𝐄𝐥𝐿. And those who know Refaat's story know 𝐄𝐥𝐿 was Refaat's birthplace and a place he loved, he was fiercely proud of. And in his book, in the book behind me, Light from Gaza, Refaat tells the story of his childhood in 𝐄𝐥𝐿 and what that neighborhood meant to him. And I think it must have been extraordinary for Refaat's mother and father and other family members to have the opportunity to be able to mourn him, and to know where he is.
So it's something that. Oh, hi, Asem.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Good. You're back.
Thank you, Asem.
Yeah.
Do you want to? Yeah. So let's talk now. We hope to keep you for a little while to talk to you about the situation in Gaza. So let's do that now. But just first of all, you've already given it a little bit, but what's your reaction to Donald Trump's comments that everyone has heard, and what's the reaction of people around you?
People here, I mean, they don't care, like they are busy in finding water, struggling with their daily tasks. But like, he is not the first one who tried this plan. In the 17th, Gazans were 300,000 people, and they started relocating the Gazans. And look at us now, we are 2.3 million people and even more. I think Mr. President Trump knows, as I know, as you know, as everyone knows, that there is only one solution to this complex situation. Just give us our state, just give us our rights, give us our self-determination. It is very easy. Why they should take that headache, like moving 2.3 million? We have our own land. We have our own capabilities. We are smart people. We would like to participate in the international development. We have doctors, engineers, teachers, artists. I mean, just do it. I mean, there is only one solution, and even our grandparents understood that solution. You tried everything with us, and actually, that idea started 15 months ago to force people to leave Gaza, and the harsh way doesn't work. So if Mr. President Trump wants really to solve this issue, he can do it easily. Just give the Palestinians their rights. That's easy. That's what I can think about it. Moving people and relocating them is not that easy. There's easier ways. And he's a good businessman. He should understand that. Why should you pay all of that, billions of the Americans' money to relocate people to do another? I don't understand that. I am an engineer. I understand math and physics. You know, this is like, it's like equation, okay? Just do the easier way. Do the easier way. We want to live in peace. We want to contribute to the development of the world. We want to do something. He could try, you know. He could try, but a lot of people tried that way in the last 70 years or 80 years. And we are here since 4,000 years ago, you know. We, not me, not my grandparents, we are here. A lot of people came and tried to kick us out of this land, but they left. So just read the history and then be smart enough, as you said about yourself, and give us our rights. If you want to solve the issues in Middle East, just give the Palestinians their rights. Everyone is telling you that. So, like, even the Israelis now, they understand that there is no solution but to give the Palestinians their rights. And I think we deserve it. It's our land, you know. It's our land. We are good people. We are smart people. We we deserve better than that. So, I can't take him seriously, you know. Like, people, if any Gazan wants to leave for education, for example, if he wants to study, and even if he wants to live in another country, he has that choice, you know, like anyone in the world. If any Indonesian wants to move to Germany, or any Saudi Arabian wants to leave to, you know, they have their own rights. So give us that right, you know, but don't say that, we will relocate all the people of Gaza and send them, I don't know, to Egypt. We love Egypt. We love Jordan, you know, like we have families there, we have connection there, but we want to live here. I want to live in 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿, you know. I think you read about and you hear some people who moved from forcibly displaced from the north to the south. They felt that they are out of their land. It's only 15 kilometers between the north and the south. And even in Gaza City itself, some people from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 if they left 𝐓𝐡𝐞 said, no, we want to come back to 𝐓𝐡𝐞. They can't live without being in 𝐓𝐡𝐞 or @Tufah or Tel El-Hawa or their neighborhoods. So, I mean, he has 4 years to try, but I mean, he will figure out that it's not a good idea 4 years later. So he can take the easier way, give us our rights. We want to live in peace, and he has. This is, I think, this is his last chance. The last 4 years, so he could do something good for for him, for us, for the Americans, for everyone in this world.
Yeah. Asem, I wanted to ask you actually when on 10 days ago, last Monday. We were all watching, well, Ali wasn't. Ali was in a Swiss prison. But the rest of us at the Electronic Intifada were watching live. Some of us were up very late at night watching the flood of people coming through what used to be the Netzarim corridor and coming back up to the north after being displaced from the south, like you were just saying. And we watched you live on Al Jazeera Arabic and other networks as well. There you are talking about what was, what it was like being there. You were, sitting in a chair, speaking with reporters, and this like flood of people is just, happening behind you. And then you took these photos. Can you talk about what it was like on that day? I can't do math. I can't remember the exact day. It was January 20 something. When everyone was coming back to the north, what it was like.
I called it a day of hugs and tears. My sister, I have a smart sister called Nisma. Nisma means breeze in English. She called me that night and she said, Asem, she's 16 years old, 17 years old. She was born in 2008. She survived 5 wars. And she used to get like 99% plus in her school. So she called that night and she said, I want to go. And I said, no, where to go? And she said, I want to see people going back to Gaza. Then I told her it will be like, crowded area, a lot of people are coming back, and you are a young girl. They said, no, please, Asem. Then at 6 a.m., we moved there. We were waiting for people to enter Gaza City. And I neglected everything, but I just focused on the hugs and tears. People were like, like a thirsty man saw water after a very long time. So families gathered again, couples gathered again, kids with their parents and or their father. So it is a day of hugs and tears. And I was very happy. I knew that the war is after the war. Like now, there's like a common sentence now in Gaza that the war after the war, because there is a massive destruction, there's no water, the infrastructure damaged, but the people just forgot everything on that day, and they just used, like, even strangers. I hugged a lot of strangers that day. You know, like, because I feel that we are all one family. Like, if I saw like an old man with nobody, I used to hug him to tell him that, oh, you are welcome, father, please, you are welcome here. Give him some water, talk about his way, you know, like, because it was like 10 kilometers from the south to the north. So, and also this happiness, there's something behind this happiness, like the struggling, the suffering, the pain of those people who came back to their city after the Israeli forcibly displaced them to another area. They called it humanitarian zone. I was like glad to see my people come back to their city, to this nice city. And I asked people, how do you feel, father? He said, look, my soul came back to me. Like he felt exactly like a died man. And his soul returned back to him after he just entered Gaza. And if you see Gaza on that time, it's like, you know, a destroyed buildings, a damaged roads, sewage leakage, you know. So it's like you need to put yourself in the Gaza shoe to understand what is Gaza City meant to them. It's not only the buildings, it's not only the roads, it's not only the ancient places. It's the smell of Gaza City. It's the feelings there, and that's it. It's something complicated. We can't really explain people why we love Gaza to the max. So, and I wrote to my ex account that the war has ended. You know, like, once people came back, I felt that, okay, Israel can't come back to the war again. We don't care. Because since our people came back to the...
Still so much infrastructure that needs to be.
Yeah, we'll try to get Asem back, but listening to him, you know, and you just contrast that with the way, I hate to even mention the name of Trump in this context.
I know.
The way he talks about the people of Gaza as disposable, really.
Yeah, like
and Gaza
pieces of
just
furniture. Yeah, of course.
a demolition site. Gaza is a demolition site.
Ah,
yeah.
There he is.
Sorry.
Awesome.
No.
Awesome. No, it's okay. We are so grateful to have you with us. Awesome. You speak about Gaza City with such extraordinary love and feeling, and it's clear that the people of Gaza City feel that as well. And we've seen that in those incredible images. But it's also a reality that they came back to a lot of destruction. And immediately after the ceasefire came into effect on January 19th, the Gaza municipality began clearing roads and providing some services. But so tell us about what the municipality has been able to do, what the most immediate challenges are for people in Gaza, and give us a sense of how people can survive there amid so much destruction. Just give us a sense of what it's like now.
Okay. There is...
Oh no. Hopefully we can get him back. Oh, you're muted, Ali.
I will keep trying to get him back.
Yeah.
And, you know, that Gaza City, I'll just say, which I only visited once in my life in 2013, and I spent a week there. And it was I mean, the Gaza City I saw in 2013 was an extraordinarily beautiful place. And there was so much life there. It was a lively place, an exciting place, a place of a lot of activity. And you could see how people were attached to it. It had a real soul. And I met Asem there just by sheer coincidence. I don't think I'd even met or knew Refaat at the time, but I met Asem when he was still a university student, and I came as part of the Palestine Festival of Literature. And he was one of those students who just stuck in my mind, and I never forgot him. And we stayed in touch a little bit, and it just shows what a small world it is that we remain connected in this way. And Asem has become such an important figure today in the life of Gaza City. Asem, go ahead.
There is a massive destruction. Okay, thank you for your words. You know, like,
you weren't supposed to hear that. You weren't supposed to hear it.
I'm not that important, but it's
you are to us.
Talking about the massive destruction in Gaza. It's not only a destruction in the infrastructure. It's there is a destruction actually in the civic facilities, not only in houses and buildings. We are talking about a destruction in hospitals, schools, universities, roads, public parks, cultural centers, libraries, water wells, sewage pumps. So it's unbelievable destruction actually. And as an engineer and a researcher in engineering, I can tell you there is a lot to do to rebuild Gaza. For example, let us talk about water now. Water can reach now to only 40% of the total area in Gaza City, while 60% of the total area has no water for months now. And people need to carry water for a long distance. And they got limited amount of water. The international standard, for example, stated that each person should get like 120 liters daily, including drinking water, showering, cooking, and all of the personal needs. While people in Gaza right now got less than 15 liters daily for drinking, for showering, for cooking, for everything. So there's a massive destruction in the water facilities. 75% of the central water wells in Gaza City have been destroyed. There is a destruction in more than 100,000 of the water networks in Gaza City itself, while maybe double or triple that damages around the Gaza Strip. So people are really struggling to survive. Their daily routine started in the early morning, looking for water, charging their devices, find like some wood to cook for their kids, do their work, like a lot of freelancers and, some engineers or even artists who like all the type of people, they are looking for electricity and internet connection to do their job. So every single corner of that suffering has another layers of suffering. We can't just say there is a water scarcity. Being deep in that crisis will show you like a painful details. Like my nephew Al-Bara, he lost his father respected postgraduate man in Gaza, Mu'taz Rajab, 37 years old. He lost his cousins, Rasha and Ahmed. My nephews, Rasha and Ahmed, 10 and 11 years old. Al-Bara can't process the absences of his father while he is very busy finding water. On that day, he told me, uncle, come to visit us on Tuesday. Then I said, why Tuesday? Why not Monday? Why not Thursday? And he said, because I am not carrying water on that day. Then he explained that me and my cousin agreed to, I help him on Monday to carry water for our family and his family. Then I will take Tuesday off. Then my cousin will carry the water and move the water on Tuesday. And Al-Bara is 11 years old. He is carrying 100 liters, which is like 100 kilograms daily. 1 kilometer, then he carry it for another 4 floors on his own and the small hands. So when we say there's a water scarcity, there is a lot of suffering behind that word. And when we talk, for example, the accumulated rubbish and waste in Gaza, there is 100,000 tons of rubbish, of waste now accumulated in the city. So it's like only one sentence, but if you go deep, you will understand this means diseases, skin conditions, especially among the children. So it's unimaginable suffering, and this is not only during the war. It become more difficult even after the ceasefire, because a lot of our citizens came back to Gaza now and to the North Gaza. So the needs to the water, needs for the civic services, the municipal services, now they need more of that. And we still have the same limited resources. We tried our best. We are trying our best. We listed, we put a very nice plan to open all the roads, to maintain the water wells, the water networks. And we delivered that plans, that needs list, the challenges, everything in 2 languages, in English and Arabic. And we sent it before the ceasefire to the international NGO, to the international associations, to the NGOs, and we discussed with them the details about the technical and all the details. And they promised that, oh no, we will help you, don't worry. So, for example, we lost 85% of our total heavy vehicles. So when we talk about heavy vehicles, people might think, oh, it's okay, but it's not, because the heavy vehicles are moving and collecting and moving and transferring the waste. Heavy vehicles are doing the maintenance for damaged networks. Heavy vehicles are should open we use it to open the closure roads. So it's essential. So we just need the heavy vehicles to do our basic job, cleaning the streets, maintain and repair the water networks. So we are not talking about the reconstruction plan, which we really hope to start to do it as soon as possible, helping people find a way to rebuild their home, their houses. But till now, we are, I think, more than 2 weeks of ceasefire, but we still wait for that heavy vehicles and a lot of other needs, like the maintenance for the equipment for maintenance, the tools for that we need to use it in water wells, generators, sufficient amount of fuel. There's a lot of things, and we just wait, just wait, and people are still suffering. So time is not, maybe time is just fast for the politicians around the world, but it's very, very slow to the people in Gaza, especially
Sorry, Asem, what is holding up? You said that international organizations promised to assist. This is day 19 of the ceasefire. What do you think is the obstacle to this equipment and these essential supplies coming in? Or what are they telling you?
We should wait. They are trying their best. It is a political issue, still under the discussion. No real explanation about this is happening in the ground. Because, like, for example, Sheikh Ridwan Basin, and it's a very big pool in Gaza, in the north of Gaza City. We used to collect storm water there. Then it used to come to the groundwater. Now it's mixed with sewage and with wastewater. So it's very dangerous, considered as an environmental and health crisis in the city now. What we need is special parts for the main pipeline. So we need mainly a very special pipelines. We asked for this pipeline 1 year ago. We published many statements. We talked to the NGOs. We talked to everyone about that. And till now, no answer about that. Just promises. And to be honest with you, without these equipments, without these vehicles, without these tools, we won't be able to alleviate the suffering of people. This is the truth. We tried our best, and we are trying our best, but also we are humans. I am working now since October 7th. No weekend, no day off, no salaries, nothing. So we are very tired. And my colleagues, like a lot of them, engineers, technicians, workers, there is a massive distraction with limited resources. So without that help, without providing us with this essential tools and equipments, we won't be able to alleviate the suffering of people. And when I talk about alleviating the suffering, just giving them the basic services: water, collect the waste, maintain and open the roads. That's it. We are not talking about the huge plans or develop the city. Just to provide people with basic services. And I'm sorry to say that, but this is the truth, that we have limited options and we have limited resources. But still, we won't give up. We will try our best. We already tried for 15 months, and we will keep our attempts to alleviate the suffering of people. But also, we are calling for help. So the NGOs should do something.
I think that that's something our audience can also help us with. That's something that, everyone is so relieved that there's a ceasefire, but a ceasefire, as important as that is not enough. We need to be collectively putting pressure on our own governments, on international organizations, to not allow the basic humanitarian needs of the people of Gaza to be continued to be used as a weapon against them to continue the genocide.
Right.
And people who are asking, what can I do now? And many people ask that. I think that's something we need to focus on, and maybe we can think about in future programs, putting a focus on where those blockages are and where they're being held up, so that we can try to highlight that. I think it's extraordinarily important. Asem, it may seem difficult from the perspective of today, when things are so difficult in Gaza. The basic needs of people are not being met. But I want to ask you, before we, just think about, or to tell us how you see the future of Gaza. What do you see in Gaza's future, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, any time frame you want? Because we're hearing visions of Gaza from politicians and Donald Trump that have nothing to do with the Palestinian people and the people of Gaza. I want to hear your vision.
Well, it is a difficult question, because I have to answer based on my academic and research background, while everything happening now in Gaza is based on the politicians' background. But I think there is a chance to remove the rebels in Gaza within a short time if we get the needs. So I want just to put some short sentences to make it like as the border of our discussion. Second, we can rebuild Gaza in a few years. Yes or no? Yes, we can do it. Is it difficult? It is very difficult. Do we have the ability to do it? We have the ability. We have the engineers, we have the smart people, we have the workers, we have the heavy vehicles drivers, and we have the capabilities to do it within the frame time that we need to do it. The third thing is, do we have the resources to do that? Of course not, because Israel destroyed everything in Gaza, and there is an intensive destruction even in the human resources, not only in the infrastructure. So even we lost engineers, we lost professors, we lost a lot of our workers, our technicians. So we have limited resources. So this is the basic questions to understand the situation. We did a plan for I can't say a plan for the reconstruction, like a general dialogue, about the reconstruction plan. And we discussed about these principles with NGOs, with some professors inside and outside Gaza. And we had what I can call it a philosophy about the reconstruction. A very nice one, domestic, but we did it as a Palestinian, we understand our culture, we understand our society, we understand our needs. So we should do it, and we can do it. We can do it. But we need the support and the help from our friends and colleagues and the NGOs outside Gaza, because there is a lot of needs to do that. We might need maybe consultations. Yes, we need it. We need equipment. Yes, we already mentioned that we need. But after we talk about all of that, we will back again to the point of political issue. We always face that problem in our working, that it is a political issue. It needs to be discussed between the politicians. But as engineers, I believe that Gaza should be a developed city. A very nice place, as Mr. Trump said. Yes, it is a very nice place. We have the most beautiful weather in Middle East. I believe, yes. We have the most beautiful beach, true. But help us rebuild Gaza again to be a good city, to be a nice city, a developed city. And help the people of Gaza to live in peace. So when I think about Gaza, I need and I dream about my kids to live in that city, in a peaceful environment, to have their options in this life. And again, when I think about this dream, I always see that there's politicians like Trump and others talk about their own plans. So to be realistic, it is very difficult, but it can be done. It is not easy, but we can do it. We can manage and we can lead that process, but we need help. This is what I can say about the reconstruction of Gaza. So people outside Gaza should understand that, people like Gazans still need help, but they can lead their plans. They have all the human resources to do it. And also the communities outside Gaza should tell their governments to help Gazans do that. I wish you all, like Ali, Nora, Tamara, everyone, visit us in 5 years to enjoy the summer in Gaza. I believe you will enjoy your time and you might not leave. So I will keep that dream. I don't care what politicians think or plan for us. But this is my dream, my colleagues' dream, my family dream, everyone in Gaza dream about that. And one day it will come true, inshallah.
Inshallah. Awesome. As I told viewers when we were reconnecting with you, I met you the first time when I visited Gaza City in 2013 for 1 week, my only time in Gaza. And it was a truly beautiful place. And I understood from that visit why the people of Gaza are like no other and love Gaza so much. And with people like you there, despite all the difficulties, I know that Gaza has a future. But we all have to do our part in terms of pressing our governments, keeping our voices raised, not letting anyone forget about Gaza. That's what Israel wants. They want us to forget about Gaza, to go back to the siege, to go back to slowly starving people, to force them out. We can't let that happen. Awesome. The Gaza Municipality has a website where people can go if they want to learn more about what the municipality does. We can show that. And we hope that you will come back again and talk to us about the situation in Gaza. And we're so grateful to you, Asem, for all the work you do, for the time you've spent with us, and particularly for sharing that difficult story about bringing Refaat home to Shujaia. But we're so grateful to you for doing that. Thank you so much, Asem. And God bless you, and God bless your work and your family and all your colleagues and everyone in Gaza.
Amen. Amen. Thank you
so
again.
much, Asem. It's the last time I was in Gaza was in 2008, which seems like a century ago, and I can't wait to return and have coffee and 𝐓𝐡𝐞 on the beach with all of our friends and colleagues. And
we will.
So
we will.
I'm holding you to it.
Inshallah.
You should my mother 𝐓𝐡𝐞 one day.
I would love it.
We would love that. We're waiting for that day.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Asem.
Thank
for
you.
all you do.
You're
We'll
welcome.
see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad we were able to spend some time with him. Just so much love and dignity and integrity, and the work that he does, and the person he is, and the writer that he is.
Extraordinary writer, and you can see from the way he speaks why he's such an extraordinary writer, and all of his articles that we're so proud to publish at the Electronic Intifada during the war and after the war, or the genocide. And he never stopped writing during the genocide. He never stopped working for the people of Gaza during the genocide. He never stopped speaking out during the genocide. A truly extraordinary person.
Yeah.
We're very grateful to Asem.
Yes, indeed. I think we have another surprise guest before we go to the resistance report. Is that right? Do we have? Yes, I think. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we'll get our surprise guest on after the resistance report, but let's bring on Jon. Yep. All right. Excellent. Okay. So let's go to the resistance report, and then hopefully we'll have our guest and we'll have our discussion. And Jon, are you there? Hopefully. Oh. All right, I'm going to bring Jon on. There we go. Jon?
Hey guys, I think we're waiting for Abu Bakr.
I think we are.
Oh, did I?
You gave the game away.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Way to go.
I think people do.
Well, Abu Bakr, who, as people will know, is from Central Gaza, has been on a reporting trip to North Gaza the last few days. And if you follow him on his social media, on Twitter, X, you can see some of the reportage he's doing as he goes around and sees what is happening. Do we have him yet? What is the situation?
He was in the south as well, so he's gone from Khan Yunis to Jabalia.
Yeah. It doesn't look like he's here yet. He says he's connecting. So we can give it another minute, but
we'll give him a minute. Jon, as you were listening to Asem, was there anything that surprised you about what you heard in terms of the situation of Gaza City? We've been talking about Gaza City so much, or you've been talking about it so much in terms of the military perspective and the connection that the fighters have to their neighborhoods and to their families. How do you react to what Asem was saying?
I mean, I was just so proud. I mean, to listen to that and to have followed Asem this whole war. And you know what he said, it's a small thing, but when he said not getting paid. And people have been working every single day, life and death circumstances for their community, for their city, for their neighborhoods, for their friends, for their families. I just so proud to be able to watch, and honored to be able to watch them do that. And Asem, the story about Refaat was devastating and beautiful. And I think that these are the individual stories that can get a little bit lost in the tallies and the following each day with the brutal numbers. And he just brought it home so much. I don't think I'm ever going to be the same after that interview. It was amazing. And just to know that Refaat is back in 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐿 where he belongs. And it's they're heroes. And that resistance is from all levels of society, and I think that that's the most amazing part about it.
I think we have, sorry, John, I think we have Abu Bakr now. Can we bring him on?
Nope. Jon got
Here
kicked.
we go. Jon got kicked off, but let's see if we can get Abu Bakr on. And of course, this just shows how, even after the ceasefire, the infrastructure is so degraded. But we have been, since the first day, since our first live stream on October 9th, 2023, when our first ever live guest from Gaza was Refaat Alareer, we've been committed to trying to get people from Gaza on this live stream as often as we can. And that's something we'll continue to do, because we want the world to hear what people in Gaza have to say. I mean, Nora, today I read an article in the New York Times. I commented on it on my Twitter account.
Let's bring Jon back.
Yeah, let's bring Jon back for a minute. But I read this long article evaluating Donald Trump's plan to relocate Palestinians from Gaza. And, first of all, they're legitimizing it by discussing it in terms of, is it practical? Is it feasible? That, like, they're just to have that discussion is to legitimize ethnic cleansing. But then they talk to like German diplomats and Israelis and Americans and all these so-called experts and diplomats. Not one single Palestinian, not let alone one person from Gaza. And which other community can you like just treat as if they don't exist, as if they're furniture, just to be pushed around, as if they're human rubble to be bulldozed out of the way? And to me, it's just that sheer racism is so apparent and so
normalized in the corporate media too.
So normalized. And just to go back to an era where they talk about like whole countries like they're just chess pieces on a great game. We're trying once more to connect with Abu Bakr. We're going to give it one more try, because we would love to get him to join us. I saw someone in the comments ask what his Premier League squad is, and I don't know the answer to that. So we need to ask him that question. So do you know, Jon?
I don't, but he knows for sure. It'll be a nuanced.
So we got to ask the tough questions here. So we're going to give it one more try.
I don't even know what that means. Premier, I guess that's football. That's a football thing.
It is a football thing. Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's see. Are you with us, Abu Bakr?
Oh,
let's see. Maybe it's not going to work. We're always hopeful.
Yeah. Well, we can try him again at the very end of the show, but I think we should go for Jon's report, and then we can see if Abu Bakr can find a different signal. I don't even know what it's like trying to get a clear signal in Gaza these days. but we will try him again.
Well, if you could hear us, he's doing terrific work.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
he really is.
yeah.
Yeah. And again, like as Ali mentioned, go to his Twitter, and he's been posting these like 4 to 6 minute videos of himself just walking around Gaza and kind of narrating where he is and what he's seeing and what it used to look like, and how people are trying
And visiting his university and
Yeah.
the places that are filled with the
Yeah.
memories of his friends and his
Yeah.
studies and his
Yeah.
the optimistic life he as a student was leading along with his colleagues, and
Yeah.
going back and seeing all those places. And you can find those video reports on Abu Bakr's Twitter account, which is, I think, Abu Bakr, let me see.
So I think just Abu Bakr
Abed
_
W.
Abed. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you'll find him. He's
Yeah.
easy to find.
Exactly. All right, John.
Can I say, take it away, John?
You can. You did.
I've never
Well
done
done. Well
Never
done.
done it. Take it away, John.
Thanks, guys. All right. So this is the resistance report for day 489 since October the 7th. I'm reporting this on February 6th. It is ceasefire day 19. And this report is going to be on the prisoner exchange number 4 of phase 1 of the ceasefire. It took place on Saturday, this most recent Saturday, February the 1st, and it took place in 2 locations, Khan Yunis and Gaza City. We can maybe throw up the map. I don't know if Tamara's maybe doing double duty with Abu Bakr. Thanks, Tamara. So Khan Yunis in the south and the Gaza City port is the other location. So 𝐓𝐡𝐞 secured 2 locations for the Saturday exchange, and this is now 6 separate locations in the 4 exchanges that 𝐓𝐡𝐞 has brought captives to and handed them over to the Red Cross. So this was a particularly interesting one. There was quite a show of force in the days leading up to it. The negotiators, Netanyahu and the Israeli negotiators, had complained about people being too close to the captives in the release in Khan Yunis that took place the previous Thursday, when we were on air last Thursday, it was happening. And it took place outside of Yahya Sinwar's family home in Khan Yunis, and also in the north near Kamal Adwan Hospital in the north of the Jabalia refugee camp. And Netanyahu and the negotiators had said that people had gotten too close, and that that was what was holding up the release of Palestinian prisoners, which is not true, because Israel was holding up prisoners' releases previous to that. And we've seen their statements that they're going to rearrest people if they have expressions of joy. But in any case, the mediators communicated with Hamas. So Hamas communicated on an international level through the mediators, through the tripartite mediation that has gone on for the ceasefire. So they're able to function on an international level. Then the message gets down to Gaza, to the national level throughout Gaza, from the furthest to the north to the furthest to the south. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is able to get that message and relay it to the local level. So you're talking about 3 levels of command and control responding in less than 36 hours to this claim. And Hamas able to pull that off. So a demonstration of strength, of capability after this war, that in April of last year, Netanyahu said that he was 1 step away from total annihilation of Hamas. And we'll remember that previous to that, Netanyahu said that the goal of the war in Gaza is to eliminate the Hamas movement and the idea of it going forward for generations. So just spectacular failure. And the footage that we're going to see is just a remarkable testament to the fact that the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades are not only not annihilated, they're in total control of the Gaza Strip, and they're able to respond within literally within hours and pull off these exchanges And they did it again. So let's take a look at the first video. This is the video. And just to say, we're not showing the captives. They've been shown on the media, but the Third Geneva Convention is going to be what we operate on, and we're not going to show footage of the captives. I think that matches with YouTube community guidelines as well, although the releases were on Al Jazeera Arabic and English, both, and YouTube had those on. But we'll follow the Third Geneva Convention. It's a good way to operate, and we'll leave them out of this footage. If we look at video number 1, the production quality... So I didn't want to talk over that. The production quality of this is remarkable. That track, that audio track runs through it all. You can see there the shadow unit taking the captives off their wall, organized, taking the message directives. We'll break this down after. We'll show you what we're seeing right now, and I'll break down these details after. They have martyr posters ready. They have trucks that the Israeli military immediately said were theirs, that were captured on October 7th. You see an organized space, completely organized. You see fighters saluting Mohammed al-Deif. You see the captives going in with the Red Cross. No crowds around. The crowds were kept back by hundreds, if not thousands, of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 fighters. Again, we've removed the prisoners from here, but they're signing over here for the Red Cross. This is in Khan Yunis. And these sites were secured simultaneously in Khan Yunis and at the Gaza City port. So this is the departure of the first set. There's 2 released in Khan Yunis. And you can see the show of force from the fighters. Again, effectively a parade of fighters. You can see their intact trucks, presuming that these trucks have made it through the war in some sort of underground, presumably in the tunnels to keep them in this shape. So 𝐓𝐡𝐞 emerging from the war with just a really significant show of strength and force in the face of the Israelis. And this is something that is on Israeli television. It's the one and only time that Gaza is actually on television in Israel. People would be shocked if they knew how little Israeli television reports on Gaza actually on the ground or sees what's happening. The military censor covers all of this. But because this is a prisoner exchange, the Israelis are watching this very closely. So it's an opportunity to communicate directly with the Israelis. And Hamas met that moment and definitely communicated with the Israelis. We'll break down some of these things that we're seeing after this video, but this is a 4.5-minute video of excellent production quality that we have seen throughout. You can see this is the Gaza City port here being secured for the release. This is the release of the American. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, when they're handing over the American dual citizen, as they have been doing throughout the war, they gave a gift bag to him, which has some souvenirs in it, but also his personal items that he had collected along the time of his stay. They also gave a bag to his wife, who was released in the November exchange. And in this, on the PA announcer said, you're watching the signing process, that is the handing over that is taking place right now. As you can see from these images, they remain proof. We truly know the meaning of a captive and how to preserve their lives according to our beliefs and our religion. So it was just a very serious production quality showing for the first time, really leaning into the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 shadow unit. If we look at the next slide, you can see this is the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 shadow unit. This is the unit set up to look after prisoners. and to keep them secret. This was set up in 2006. This is the fighter here is getting the directive. This was from the video. He's getting the directive that says top secret. If we look at the next slide, he opens it up and you can see the details in it. It says that based on the directives from the 𝐶𝐶𝐏 Brigade leadership, the handover of prisoner ID number, ID number X, according to the established protocol. So they're showing here the shadow unit. The shadow unit was in previous videos. We saw them in black on the stage with Tavor IDF captured rifles. But this was the first video that 𝐶𝐶𝐏 really leaned into the role that the shadow unit plays. And the shadow unit was created in 2006. It was created by Mohammed Sinwar after the capture of 𝐄𝐥𝐿𝐜 𝐄𝐿, the Israeli tank gunner who was captured across the border from the Kerem Shalom site in southern Gaza in Rafah, but captured by the Khan Yunis brigade of the 𝐶𝐶𝐏 brigades in a tunnel operation. They tunneled underneath the border and came up and attacked the Israeli position and captured 𝐄𝐿𝐜 𝐄𝐿. And he was held in Gaza for 2,000 days, and the Israelis had no idea. They admitted they had no idea where he was for those 2,000 days at any point. There was multiple military operations during that time, and he was kept completely secretive. So this unit has a prominent role, and it's in this case, they are facilitating the exchange. This is exchange number 4. 183 Palestinians were released, 18 with life sentences, 54 with long sentences, and 111 from Gaza and that were taken after October 7th and taken to the torture camps, had no charges against them, no evidence against them, just captured as bargaining chips and tortured. And as the months and years pass, we're going to hear about the details. We know from Sidi Tamam, which is one major torture camp, the brutality that existed in there, but we're going to hear, I think, more of that. And so this was the first release of people from Gaza. So it was a very celebratory event. The breakdown of the Palestinians released was 54 Fatah al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, 8 𝐶𝐶𝐏, 6 Saraya al-Quds Islamic Jihad, 2 PFLP Abu Ali Mustafa Brigades, and 2 DFLP National Resistance Brigades. And this is still part of phase 1 of the ceasefire, during which 292 Palestinians will be released who have life sentences, essentially being rescued from the grave. Israel believes that when they give them these life sentences, sometimes they give them 50 life sentences, that is the end of their lives. And so these prisoner exchanges are essentially bringing people back from the grave. And that's what the shadow unit, if we look at the next slide, the shadow unit was first, like I said, was founded in 2006 with 𝐄𝐿𝐜 𝐄𝐿, but it was first recognized in 2016 after the 2014 war in Gaza, where there were soldiers captured and the bodies of soldiers captured. Hamas released, 𝐶𝐶𝐏 released this video showing the shadow unit and their job. And they're very good at their job. None of the 𝐶𝐶𝐏 captives, like I said, 𝐄𝐿𝐜 𝐄𝐿, no trace. They had no idea where he was for 2,000 days. This war's 485 days, and they have had no idea where any of the captives that are held by 𝐶𝐶𝐏 were. There was no intelligence successes that marked this battle at all. And if we remember the one time it appeared that Israel had intelligence, it was that they were lured into a tunnel in the Jabalia camp back in May during the second invasion of the Jabalia camp, and they captured Israeli soldiers in the tunnel. And we're still waiting to see those soldiers be released. They'll be released in phase 2. And they also captured a rifle during that time. So the shadow unit looks after the prisoners and reports directly to Mohammed al-Deif, the chief of staff of the 𝐶𝐶𝐏 brigades, who was announced killed last week. He was killed back in the summer, but 𝐶𝐶𝐏 acknowledged his death just last week. So according to the 2016 video, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 said that the unit treats enemy captives honorably in line with rules of Islam and provides for their needs, taking into account the treatment given to the prisoners of the resistance in the hands of the enemy. So given the treatment of the prisoners of the resistance in the hands of the enemy, instead of a vengeful, because of the torture and death, more than 58 Palestinians have been killed since October 7th inside Israeli prisons through torture. That given the treatment of the prisoners of the resistance in Israeli jails, rather than vengeance, they treat these prisoners well. And every single prisoner who has come out has said that. And in this release, the American in the video that I just showed, I cut him out, but he spoke of the treatment that he got and thanked the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades, as everyone else has, for keeping them safe, moving them around from place to place, away from Israeli bombing and Israeli attack. So the juxtaposition of the shadow unit and Netanyahu's claim that people may remember back a couple months ago when he offered $5 million to anyone who wanted to turn over prisoners, that's a joke in Gaza. It was right from that moment a joke in Gaza. But on Saturday, when this footage was being shown, it was a joke on Israeli television as well. The state broadcaster's military correspondent said, "How many Hamas activists were tempted by our offer of $5 million for information on any prisoner during the war?" The answer is absolutely zero, a complete zero. You don't need extensive experience in Hamas affairs to understand that they're not going to sell prisoners for money. And they're not. And because they see the release of these prisoners as rescuing people from the grave, rescuing fighters for national liberation from the grave that would be forgotten and would die in prison without these prisoner exchange. And in fact, Mohammed al-Deif, who is the leader of 𝐓𝐡𝐞, his first operations unit was a soldier kidnapping unit. 𝐓𝐻𝐻 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐿 first operations unit was a counterintelligence unit that was to root out collaborators. And Mohammed al-Deif, he was part of a soldier capture unit that was trying to capture soldiers in order to return the leadership and cadre of the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades, the early 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades at that point, and the fighters within prison. So it's a very important unit that was not shown in this way as clearly as it was in this last exchange. So, and if we look at the next picture, this one really upset the Israelis. This is the shadow unit logo on a truck captured in the envelope on October 7th. And Israeli TV pointed that right out, right off the bat. Because again, Israel is watching this, every moment of this. Every detail of this was taken seriously by 𝐓𝐡𝐞. It was an expansive and detailed demonstration of their capabilities, and driving in this truck that was captured on October 7th. The military correspondent on Channel 12 immediately said that's one of our trucks. That's an IDF truck that was captured. And the look of these vehicles is remarkable too, because they have survived the war, presumably underground, because everything else above ground was destroyed. And they're able to carry out this demonstration in front of the Israelis, who normally military censor covers anything related to the captives. And most of it's illegal to talk about the capabilities of the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades or Hezbollah, according to the Israeli military censor. So they're driving in Israeli trucks captured. If we look at the next slide, again, you can see them with their Tavor rifles. These are Israeli-made rifles that previously had only been with special forces units, but that's not the case anymore. These were captured on October 7th. Previously, there was a single one of these Tavor rifles in Gaza that you'd see in parades. Yahya Sinwar carried it on stage one time, and that was captured in the Nahal Oz raid in 2014. I did a program on that back during the war, if people want to check that out. It was literally taken from the hands of a soldier during that raid in the 2014 war. So these are very significant statements, symbols of victory, of the lack of defeat, of the failure of Israeli project throughout this time. So that's the shadow unit, and they really leaned into that in this video. If we look at the next slide, you can also see that they leaned into the number of fighters. There was many more fighters on the streets in this exchange. Like Israel said that they wanted to have more space between the captives and during the handover. So 𝐤𝐿 said, sure, and basically doubled or tripled the number of their fighters in the streets, which is just another demonstration of the fact that these battalions that Israel said that they dismantled are not dismantled. And they did this with drones flying over the air, even though the agreement is supposed to be 12 hours of no drone flight overflights on the day of the exchange. There were drones in the air on this day. You could see them. And these fighters in the truck, when they drove by, the reporter said, show this to Netanyahu with a smile. So this is direct messaging from 𝐤𝐿. If we look at the next slide, it's the photo of the aerial of the Gaza port. Nobody knew where this handover was taking place. In the morning, Al Jazeera's correspondent got caught on the other side of the cordon because they didn't know where the site was going to be. They were able to secure 2 sites simultaneously in Khan Yunis and the Gaza City port. They were able to bring truckloads of fighters, pristine trucks that survived the war and were in perfect shape, with hundreds, if not thousands, of fighters present to secure the area. So it was a very strong display. Hani Mahmoud from Al Jazeera, who got caught on the other side of the barricade, said, nobody has any idea where these guys are coming from. They just pop up out of nowhere. So they're able to have operational security while also a demonstration of the show of force. And in this next slide, you'll see we did a lot of coverage throughout the war of the Al Ghul sniper teams. Well, here's an Al Ghul sniper from a different version, a different view, different angle than we've watched them on their stomachs carrying out sniper operations through the war. So they had their Al Ghul teams, their sniper teams, and this is at the Gaza City port. So the sniper team near the Gaza City port, which is in Tel Hawa, just beside the Shati battalion. This is the sniper who hit the officer from the Shaldag Air Force Special Operations Unit from the Israeli military, and who was part of the Shifa raid. People may remember back, I reported on that, that the officer was in the Shifa raid and 𝐤𝐿 hunted him and got him. And then a few weeks after that, 𝐤𝐿 released extensive footage to Al Jazeera that showed the way that they sniper units tracked these guys over multiple days and picked out the officer on purpose. It wasn't just a random shot. So this Al Ghul sniper here is maybe the sniper from the famous Tel Hawa sniper operations. There was a number of them over the course of a few days. The most famous one was of the Shifa, the officer who sacked Shifa in the first raid, and they bragged about it. Israel bragged about how he was in that raid, and so that's not that's something that Israel does. If we look at the next one, we can see the stage here. This is very detailed here. You got the fighters on the stage with the martyr posters of when we were on air last week, it was announced that Mohammed al-Deif and a number of senior leaders, Marwan Issa, had been killed, Rafi Salama, and a number of other senior 𝐤𝐿 leaders that were killed at various stages throughout the war. Their deaths were acknowledged. And so that's who you see on the stage there on the martyr posters. But under the stage on that banner, they've upgraded this banner from last week's show when I reported on the banner. This one is a real finger in the eye to the Israelis. If we start on the left, from from the screen from the left, you have Unit 9900. This is Israel's geointelligence agency. So this is their drones, their drone intelligence unit that would be, for example, failing to find where tunnels are over the last 20 years as they were being built. So that was a poke in the eye there. Beside that is Shabak. That's their internal security. They're the ones who are responsible for collaborators, for getting information from collaborators, from getting intelligence. Whenever there's an assassination in Israel, the IDF says that that the Shin Bet were involved in it. So they're the intelligence arm, they're the internal security, but they're the intelligence arm that carries out assassinations. So they've got them there. Then the next one over is, they get very specific here. This is the Northern Brigade of the Gaza Division, the 7643 unit, the Geffen Territorial Brigade, and they were dismantled on October 7th, very demonstrably on camera. For the whole world to see. Beside that is the Gaza Division overall, the overall division. And then beside that is the Southern Brigade of the Gaza Division. So they're really pointing out that's the 6643rd Qatif Territorial Brigade. And they were dismantled as well in the south by the Khan Yunis Battalion and by Rafah Battalion, by Khan Yunis Brigades and Rafah Brigades. And the battalions within them. And then beside that is Unit 414, and that's their special reconnaissance unit. They lost 29 fighters on 29 soldiers on October 7th. And then to the far right is Unit 8200. That's the signals intelligence unit that should have been able to pick up any kind of signs of October 7th happening, but they completely failed to do that. And so all of those logos on there, and it says Zionism will not win. That's what it says in Hebrew over them. So they picked the very, very specific, very intelligence heavy, the specific units that were dismantled, not just the broad Gaza division, each component of the Gaza division that was dismantled. That's a pretty remarkable set of logos there that I don't even know how many Israelis know that, but the people who are in those divisions, that's their patch on their arm, that are in those brigades. That's the patch on their arms, and they know from October 7th. So that was just another remarkable statement by 𝐶 in this. So, and this next one, you can just see the full shoreline there of Gaza. That's where Asem and Nora are going to have coffee. It's beautiful, and you can see the stage set up, professional. They've all got the martyr posters in front of them. And this is the Gaza port, so it's right down beside. It would be where the Tel El Hawa Battalion and the Shati Battalion are operating. And this site popped up. The trucks came out of nowhere and delivered this handover. It was really well organized. If we look at the next slide, you can see who the fighters, the 𝐶 leaders are. That's Rafi Salama on the left, going from left to right. He's the Khan Yunis Brigade commander, but he was also Mohammed al-Deif's right-hand man, senior aide. They worked together closely, and they were both killed in his house in Mawasi in presumably in July. Salama was 𝐶 acknowledged his death, but didn't acknowledge al-Deif's death. Beside that is Ayman Nofal. He's the central camps, the Central Gaza Division commander. You could see two beyond that is Mohammed al-Deif. You can see, and that's Marwan Issa. Marwan Issa is the operations chief for 𝐶, the strategic thinker. He's not well known, but he was a critical operational commander for 𝐶. He was one of the three commanders that handed over Gilad Shalit in the Shalit operation. That's the only time people saw his face. And that picture of Mohammed al-Deif is also the first time that anyone had seen his face since high school. since university. From his time at university when he was in the theater group, he had photos from that era, but he went underground in the 1980s and never emerged from underground. He gave a number of speeches that were audio addresses. He was in the shadows. The 𝐤𝐿 Brigades played on the fact that Israel believed that he had been blind, he was a quadriplegic, that he survived 7 to 9 assassination attempts on him, one that completely demolished the car. It's unbelievable. The car is just a twisted pile of metal, and Israel watches on drone footage as 𝐓𝐡𝐞 walks away from that strike. But Al Jazeera showed on their documentary a couple weeks back, showed footage of Mohammed al-Deif planning October 7th and saying that October 7th would change the course of history. And he didn't look anything like what the Israelis said that he looked like, which was something that the Israelis themselves on this day also pointed out. So the next slide is focusing in on, this is in Khan Yunis. So they're both from Khan Yunis, Rafi Salama and Mohammed al-Deif. That's who you're looking at. Deif's on the right there. And his name is the guest. The al-Deif is the guest. And he's named that because he basically roamed in the shadows. He went from the West Bank to Gaza, from the north to the south, moved around like a shadow, setting up the 𝐤𝐿 Brigade cells. And he lived underground for so long that they called him the guest, because he would stay in people's houses. He would never stay in the same house multiple nights. There was, like I said, no pictures of him after he graduated from university at the Islamic University of Gaza, like all the core 𝐤𝐿 cadre. He joined the movement in the first Intifada. And his commitment to the struggle is so pure that nobody in Gaza knew what he looked like. There was a picture of him released that Israel found during a raid early in the war that they said was him. And again, he had all his arms and legs defying what Israel said was the case. And like I said earlier, his first operational task was to set up a cell to capture Israeli soldiers and exchange them for their leaders that were in prison. So this program of October 7th of capturing soldiers and exchanging them and freeing people with life sentences and bringing back the fighters, the cadre back to Palestine to continue to participate in the operations like Yahya Sinwar did, who was released in the Gilad Shalit exchange, is a core part of the political program of 𝐤𝐿. But of course, Deif oversaw the development of 𝐤𝐿 from having a few guns that were taken from collaborators. Yahya Sinwar's unit used to attack collaborators who had Israeli weapons, and that's how they built up their stocks of weapons. Deif took chemistry in university and trained under Yahya Ayash, who was 𝐤𝐿's principal bomb maker, and grew the force of the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades through the 1990s with the principle that you don't have an army unless your fighters have guns in their hands or grenades or rockets. And so the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades built up that capacity. It began with suicide bombings when that was all they could do. But they eschew that now because they have built an army. And as Abu Ubaidah said during his speech announcing the deaths of Mohammed al-Deif and Marwan Issa, he said that there was not 1 minute of the war where there was a leadership vacuum in the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades. The way that they're structured and organized, they were able to replace their leadership and carry on the war such that people didn't know whether he was alive or dead, including the Israelis, who were unable to provide any information to the International Criminal Court to prove that he had died. Clearly, I think it's clear that he was tracked by American assets, American intelligence assets that were flying over Gaza that had higher capabilities than the Israelis. But the Israeli state broadcaster said that Mohammed al-Deif is the mastermind behind the entire October 7th plan. Our intelligence, they're saying this on the air on the day of the prisoner exchange, like basically through tears. Our intelligence and information said that due to his injury, he could neither walk nor see nor talk. But he was able to weave a complete plan for the attack without a single piece of information leaking to any branch of the Israeli intelligence, the Shabak, the military intelligence, the Mossad. So he's pointing out what the stage pointed out with the defeated units, because, of course, those two, the Gaza division units on the banner were in the middle, but on the edges were their military intelligence, Aman, the Israeli military intelligence, signals intelligence, and geointelligence. So just remarkable demonstrations by 𝐓𝐿 of force, of strength, of capability, but also just an understanding of this moment in history and delivering that moment, both for Palestinians and for the wider world, that this is a moment that's going to go down in history. And they met that moment with the production of this video, with the organization of their forces. Really just remarkable. And one of the posters said, one of the 𝐓𝐿 fighters said on Al Jazeera as he was driving by in the trucks, he said, bodies die, but ideas never die. And that's what their message was about losing their leader. And another poster, which is something we've seen from 𝐓𝐿 throughout the battle, is that we offer our leaders before our soldiers. The leadership leads from the front. So just a remarkable day and demonstrations. This next poster goes to this next slide, number 14, goes to the heart of the operation. This is the 𝐓𝐻𝐿 military base. This was the Gaza division's home base, and you can see it's surrounded by a civilian settlement, which is what Israel does, puts human shields in front of its bases. But the military boot mark over the base is because they collapsed the Gaza division. 𝐓𝐿 fighters were inside the 𝐓𝐻𝐿 base on October 7th, and the Israelis never cleared out any of these bases. They never won a battle on October 7th by fighting 𝐓𝐿. The way that the Israelis ended the battle on October 7th was by bombing the positions. They bombed their own soldiers. They bombed 𝐓𝐿 fighters. They'd never fought in a face-to-face battle and pulled 𝐓𝐿 fighters out of a captured base. So that's something that we'll probably follow more in the future when we have more time to dig into these events. That's an important story of October 7th. So this next slide was another interesting thing that the Israelis noted. This is 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿, and he is the Shati battalion chief. And Israel, this is the notice that they put out on the 3rd of December, 2023, saying eliminated. This is their posters, and they put big X's on them and make a big scene of it. While he was walking around, if we look at the next slide, he was walking around without a mask, walking around with his fighters from the Shati battalion, which is area of responsibility more or less for the Gaza port, just a little bit down the road from Shati. And so he's there with his fighters, and the Israelis were really had to admit, because on their televisions they were like, "Oh man, we did it again! You know, this is like now the 3rd or 4th, 5th time that we've lied." And so the Israeli military came out and said, the Israeli military said, after the attack, December 3rd, it was determined with a high degree of probability that he was eliminated. And as a result, an IDF spokesman issued a statement on the subject. Further examination shows that the intelligence finding on which that information was based was incorrect, and he was not eliminated in the attack, which is true because there he is walking with his soldiers. So that was another moment that the Israelis got a bit of a poke in the eye from the 𝐓𝐿 fighters on this day. And if we look at the next one, this was a funny moment that people may have saw. I took out the video because I don't know what's going on with Al Jazeera. Took down our video last week when we showed the clip of Sinwar. So I don't want to have that happen again. But this is Mohammed Karika. He's doing his stand-up piece. He's walking along the row of hundreds of fighters, and he's doing his stand-up, and he's saying, you know, all these battalions are here. They're out in force. And he says, Zaytun Battalion, Shujaiya Battalion, the Shati Battalion are here. And you can see the guy looking over his shoulder there with his eyes on the back of his head. And then if you show the next slide, Tamara, he reaches forward and taps him on the arm, and he says, when he finishes the report, he's very polite about it. He's like, finish your report. And then when Mohammed finishes the report, he turns around and you can hear on camera that he says the Tufa Battalion is here as well. And Tufa and Daraj are the old city of Gaza, and they fought significant battles throughout this war. And there was probably more battalion. I'm sure the Tal al-Hawa battalion was there as well. But it was just a funny moment when he was listing off all these battalions and he was saying how many were there. And that fighter was like, hey, you forgot us. So a moment of levity, but also a symbol of strength of how many of these battalions that Israel said were destroyed, annihilated. You know, even the idea of them in the future is annihilated, according to Netanyahu. Like nothing further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. And then, of course, all of these releases are for this next slide. And this, I just captured this kid in his suit, waiting to see his family member who has been captured and taken for 480 days to a torture camp. This is the buses arriving in Khan Yunis with the released prisoners, 111 prisoners from Gaza, 72 security prisoners, which included about 20 who were exiled to Gaza. And they have been through just a brutal time. And they were all given bracelets. On the video that I showed of the American captive, the Qassam brigades are putting on him a wristband, like a wristband that is a Palestine flag, as a gesture to them when they're leaving. The Israel Prison Services put on an armband that said, Israel will not forget our enemies, as a threat to the people that it released. So again, another juxtaposition. This is, again, phase 4. This is stage 4 of phase 1, and phase 2 negotiations were supposed to start on Monday, but instead of starting the negotiations, Netanyahu flew to Washington, met with Trump, and they came up with these ridiculous ideas that I'm sure we're going to talk about in the discussion. But the phase 2 negotiations were supposed to start on Monday. Israel is delaying them and saying that they will begin on the weekend. And stage 2 negotiations are for the soldiers that are being held. And stage 2 is supposed to dovetail with stage 3 so that the prisoners are not returned without a guarantee that stage 3 will happen. And stage 3 is reconstruction and an end to the blockade. So Trump's statements about making a Riviera in Gaza, it's not clear where that stands on phase 3 of the negotiations, because without phase 3, Israel's not getting back their phase 2 captives. So that is the resistance report for this week. I broke down exchange number 4. Exchange number 5 will be happening on Saturday. And the negotiations this weekend on phase 2 will begin.
Thank you so much for that, Jon. And there has been, I do want to bring on our guest if he's here, but there have been some rumors that the talks for the next stage of or phase of the ceasefire deal are, that Netanyahu and his team are trying to scuttle them or delay. What do you know about that so far?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's literally what's happening, because the negotiations were supposed to start on Monday. and they're not. So they're already a week behind on this. But this, I think, was a little bit expected. The way that the agreement is written is such that phase one can be extended. So it's supposed to be 42 days, supposed to go into the first week of March. But it can be extended if the phase two negotiations haven't been finalized. And the stage two negotiations are complicated because that's when even more national leaders like PFLP leader Ahmed Sahadat is on the list to be released. Marwan Barghouti is on the list to be released. And Israel's trying to block those national leaders from being released. So there's the negotiations on that stage, I think, will take time. And the fact that Israel's delaying it, and then Trump's giving these idiotic statements that don't sound like they're moving towards serious negotiations on stage two. It doesn't give a lot of optimism at the moment for that, but they're not getting their prisoners back. So if Netanyahu's fine with not getting his prisoners back now that he's started this process that has momentum now and is seen to be, all the prisoners that have returned to Israel are all in good health. They're all handed over in professional ways. They were taken care of in captivity. So there should be momentum to continue this.
I read one account in the Times of Israel, John. I mean, I don't want to say that for any human being that being in Gaza for 15 months as a captive and under the bombing was a good experience. I don't think that can be a good experience for anyone. But it was notable how the Israeli media was trying to twist absolutely everything. I mean, there was one account in the Times of Israel, and it was in other media too, I think, of a couple of the female soldiers saying they were kept in an apartment with senior Hamas people, and one of the senior Hamas people made sure that they were always fed and had a chance to take a shower, but this was some kind of psychological manipulation to make them feel comfortable and give information to Hamas about, Israeli military tactics. I don't think anyone else in Gaza got to take a shower during those 15 months, full shower.
And I think that's part of the same story. The Leary Albag, I think was her name.
Yeah.
She said she's like, I'm scared of, I'm claustrophobic. You can't take me in the tunnels and you can't separate me from people. And Qassam was like, okay, we won't take you into this. We won't take you into the tunnels. So that's why they lived in a house above ground, which I think we're going to find that almost everybody did. I think they went down in the tunnels for certain periods of time, probably for their own protection from Israeli bombardment. But people lived in family homes. They were taken care of. Those women soldiers were all together the whole time. They learned Arabic, speaking with the kids, the children of their guards. They're just held very humanely and
as humanely as you can in an entirely inhumane situation of a genocide. And again, we're talking about the soldiers. There were certainly people who weren't soldiers, and you can arguably say they should never have been there in the first place, but they were there that long because Israel refused to take them back on the first or the second day when Hamas was willing to send them all home, but Israel preferred to bomb them for 15 months and kill dozens of them.
And killed their own. They killed their own. In Shujaia, they hunted down their own guys and killed them. And that's the thing about the shadow unit that I was presenting on, is the shadow unit was so good at their jobs that Israel had no intelligence throughout. The war was defined by a lack of intelligence. That no matter how many hundreds of tanks, thousands of soldiers, tens, 20,000s of soldiers in one area, right? Like Gaza City, they sent 3 divisions on Gaza City, 50,000 soldiers. but they couldn't find their captives. It was defined, the war was defined by a lack of intelligence. And that is in part because of Yahya Sinwar's trajectory leading the organization and having a closed line that Israel couldn't penetrate, but also Mohammed al-Deif having a shadow unit that his job is to protect the prisoners, because they take it very seriously, because the prisoners are saving the lives of their fighters and national heroes. So and that demonstration was just last week I used remarkable a lot, so I was trying to use
We'll get you
But
there
was some really like silly things said by some Israelis about the captives. Like I saw, one thing that was being passed around on Twitter about how they had been drugged to make them look healthy.
Right.
Like it couldn't be possible
syndrome,
that they would be
right.
treated, humanely, and fed better.
Because
than most
Israel
Palestinians,
doesn't
by all
keep
accounts.
Palestinians humanely. Israel, we saw the way that Palestinians were released from the Israeli prisons. Horrifying images. I don't think we would show them on this live stream, but Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur, shared some of them. And I just don't think, I'm not talking about all Israelis. There are certainly Israelis who would object to this, but a significant majority part of the Israeli public thinks that cruelty to prisoners is the way things should be. I mean, without going into all the history, of course, we remember the right to rape protests in Israel. They think you should be able to abuse prisoners. So when they see Palestinians who they have so demonized and dehumanized, treating people with humanity in a situation that is fundamentally horrible for everyone, they just have to find some explanation for it that is other than Palestinians have some humanity in them. That doesn't compute for the Zionist, in the Zionist worldview.
The Israeli prison service beat the people who were leaving. There's people released in Khan Yunis with broken ribs that were beaten.
They were attacked all the way from, they talked about how from the prison they were beaten in the buses, they were hit all the way. I mean, the prisoner accounts I saw from the Palestinian prisoners who were released, it's like just humiliation and abuse all the way. And then the Israel Prison Service itself released photos of them with releasing or marching prisoners with their hands handcuffed above their heads in these incredibly painful, uncomfortable, humiliating positions. That was just gratuitous humiliation. And I think gratuitous humiliation to please the Israeli public.
A defeated public, yeah.
Yeah.
A defeated public.
Well, before we go, Ali, you have just a short prepared segment kind of on what we've been talking about. And then,
I mean, I wouldn't even, just a few points I wanted to make. I didn't want to delay the discussion with Asem any longer, but just more on the Trump clown show, because I think, I was listening to an interview with Will Menaker of the Chapo Trap House podcast, but it was on some other show the other day, and he made a really interesting point about why so many of the most popular alternative YouTube channels where people are getting real news and analysis these days are actually comedians. I mean, they started as comedians before going into news. He was talking about the role of comedy, and that Trump is essentially a comedian. And part of comedy is you don't know how serious someone is. A good comedian can string you along to the point where you don't know how serious they are about something. And that's what Donald Trump does. He keeps us all guessing about, is he serious? Does he mean this? But it has the effect of putting the idea out there. And it can be a very dangerous idea. And I think that's what we've seen happen these past few days. And not just, before we even get to Gaza, think about what happened with the tariff announcements on Canada and Mexico, where these governments were scrambling and they thought that their whole economies were going to collapse, and whole industries were worried that their economies were going to collapse. And it was going to happen. And, in Canada, Justin Trudeau came out and made these solemn announcements about retaliation and the whole of Canada has to pull together. And Trump called it off just like that, in exchange for these fake agreements with Mexico and Canada, because, it was a fake pretext to begin with, that it was because of fentanyl and migrants coming across both borders. So a fake agreement with Mexico and a fake agreement with Canada to solve an essentially fake problem, or one that can't be solved the way Trump wants it to be solved. And the whole thing was gone. And it was just gone. And whole governments were mobilized. You can imagine the late night crisis meetings in Mexico City and in Ottawa. And then it's gone. Was it all a joke? Did he mean it? Is he really going to do it in 30 days? You can bet those governments are bringing in all their top intelligence experts to say, does he mean it? Is he going to really put the tariffs on in 30 days? So I'm talking about a phenomenon that is more than just about Gaza. He comes out with this crazy plan, and let's look at what the New York Times says about this. And tomorrow we can show that headline, inside Trump's hastily written proposal to own Gaza. And the reporting says that when President Trump announced his proposal for the United States to take ownership of Gaza on Tuesday, he shocked even senior members of his own White House and government. What the reporting says is that nobody knew he was going to do this. And there had been no discussion in the Pentagon, no discussion in the State Department. I mean, setting aside how evil and immoral this plan is, if you wanted to do it, you have to actually plan to take over Gaza and own Gaza. None of that was done. It was a surprise announcement. And then they say, in the hours after the announcement, senior administration officials were notably short on substantive answers. The reason for their evasiveness soon became clear. No actual details existed. Several senior officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe sensitive discussions told the New York Times that they were still trying to figure out the genesis of the idea and considered it fantastical even for Mr. Trump. Several advisors to Mr. Trump said they expected the Gaza ownership idea to die away quietly as it became clear to Mr. Trump that it was unfeasible, and that already seemed to be happening by Wednesday afternoon. So you can see it's a very similar pattern to the tariffs. But then we're all left asking, will it come back? How serious is it? None of us knows. The idea is out there now. The New York Times itself is doing articles normalizing ethnic cleansing. So it's very hard to pass what is going on. And then just a final thing here on this is that after all this pushback, and it was revealed there really is no plan, Trump puts out this statement on his Truth Social website today, which we can also show, where he says the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinian people, like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled in far safer and more beautiful communities with new and modern homes in the region. They would actually have a chance to be happy, safe, and free. The US, working with great development teams from all over the world, would slowly and carefully begin the construction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on Earth. No soldiers by the US would be needed. Stability for the region would reign. So here what's happening in this? It's such a mess. But one,
To put
he's
it mildly.
Literally a
answering.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but he's answering. People were saying, well, you're going to send the US military to invade Gaza, and are they going to fight the Qassam brigades and defeat them after Israel couldn't defeat them for 15 months? And John just showed us how well organized they are, and those shiny Toyota trucks and all the brigades on parade from every part of Gaza, presumably ready to take up fighting again if need be. So he says, oh, well, Israel's just going to hand it to us. And then there's that strange sentence, the Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer. Well, Chuck Schumer, of course, is the very Zionist senator from New York, who I don't know if he's still the Senate. Now, I guess he'd be the Senate minority leader because the Democrats lost the Senate and the House as you'd expect them to do. And so Trump had previously, some months ago, used the term Palestinians during the election as a slur, and he'd referred to Chuck Schumer as a Palestinian then as a slur. And he seems to be doing that again here, while claiming to speak about, what he wants so that Palestinians can be happy and safe and living in peace, while using the term Palestinian as a slur against a political enemy. So again, we're all wondering, what is going on here? Is this just like a crazy clown show, or is there something more sinister? I mean, there's clearly something sinister. When we spoke with Asem and Alnabih in the first part of this live stream. So if you're watching this discussion as a separate segment, go back and see that discussion with Asem and Alnabih, because we talked there about how actually this idea of relocating people out of Gaza has a genesis, an Israeli genesis, that the Netanyahu government has been floating plans for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza for more than a year. And Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who also has expressed similar ideas in public, seems to have played a role in pushing Trump to say this publicly. But so what I want to say is that I'm not saying this is insignificant and that we should ignore it, but I'm saying we can't evaluate it on the level of how you evaluate normal government plans, no matter how evil and wrong they are. Like the Biden peer plan, for example, was crazy and may have had all sorts of sinister intent, but there was actually a real plan. They tried to put a peer there. This is something different, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm trying to put it in a bigger context of how Donald Trump operates. But the idea is now out there, and that's a very dangerous thing that we're all now forced to spend our time and effort pushing back on.
Yeah. And again, as Asem said, and as we've always reported, this is not a new plan. It's always been the plan for the Zionists to ethnically cleanse Palestinians, especially Gaza. I mean, they tried to, to give it, they tried to get Palestinians out of Gaza since the 1940s. Through all of these various U.S. brokered so-called peace accords and various deals of one and another, trying to persuade neighboring countries to take in Palestinians, because again, they don't even recognize that Palestinians have an actual connection to that land, or that their rights are enshrined in whatever vestige of international law is left. For them to be able to exercise their right of return to lands that are just over the boundary in what is now present-day Israel. And it won't work. It hasn't worked for almost 80 years, and it won't work this time. And this is just kind of the latest in a series of, Zionist and U.S. imperial fantasies imposed on Palestinians without the input of Palestinians, never with the input of Palestinians. and it won't work. And so I think there's a way that we have to respond to it, obviously, to kind of offer analysis and tell people what's at the heart of this, but also it's just I don't know what more we can say and what more value it adds to to give these fantasies any more weight than they deserve. So hopefully this is the end of this ridiculous proposal by Trump, but it'll resurface in another form at some point.
Well, the one thing that, to try and give this some optimistic spin, which now apparently I do every week, which is people know is
keep it going.
Not my character, but here I'm going to try. There's actually I didn't give you this to you before, Tamara, but I'm going to drop it in the chat, and maybe you can put up this Haaretz headline. I put it in the StreamYard chat. And the headline is, despite shocking Gaza plan, Netanyahu didn't get anything he wanted in his meeting with Trump. And the article argues that, they're quoting Alon Pinkas, a former Israeli diplomat who, it should be said, is an opponent of Netanyahu. But he says, Pinkas says about Trump, there was nothing he said that affects the continuity of the ceasefire and stage 2 of the hostage deal. Even if you take Trump at his word and you think of the Gaza takeover as some kind of viable or feasible plan, the ceasefire has to continue for it to happen. And I think that's an important point, because another thing that could be going on here is a distraction from this. Gives Netanyahu something to go home with and say, look how much America loves me, and Donald Trump is giving us the whole moon, when in reality the Trump administration seems to be still pushing to keep the ceasefire deal going. And there's no sign that they have given up on that commitment yet. So that's at least a good thing for now. And the fact that Trump is saying no U.S. forces are coming to Gaza is another sign that this is really a bunch of hot air. Even if it does reveal the deep, sinister fantasies of eliminating the Palestinian people.
Yeah. What I found really interesting was watching the actual press conference with Netanyahu and Trump together, and when Trump said this thing about "we will own Gaza," you could just see the shock on Netanyahu's face. Like he wasn't happy about it, because how are they going to own? Number one, he wouldn't want the US to own Gaza. He'd want to own Gaza. Well, he'd want to flatten Gaza, as he has done to a large extent. But number two, how is it even going to happen? It's not remotely feasible. I just found that really striking, and it does seem to me. I mean, again, it's like we don't want to say optimistic things, but it does seem to me a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, Trump's whole MO, and he did this in the first 3-4 weeks of his first term, is to create these like kind of incessant, relentless waves of shock, right? Like creating shocks to the system, keeping people overwhelmed, keeping people distracted, and in this state of like panic and confusion. This is how he operates. That's what con men do. That's what used car salesmen are. I'm sure many of them are nice, but like in the
estate
kind of
agents too.
Exactly. Yes. Right. I mean, it's to kind of sell you a dream. While
real estate, right?
Real estate, yeah, like speculative developers, right? Like selling you a dream while really, just giving you something garbage, and that's what Trump is really good at. He is the honest face of U.S. imperialism. That's what every single U.S. presidential administration has done in various forms. It's just the aesthetics that change. He is the grotesque version of every single U.S. president. And so I think keeping that in mind is helpful for people, that this is kind of how this is by design, and and he's just kind of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks at this point.
And there's a part of me thinks he genuinely thought that he would come out with this and everyone would say, wow, that's such a fantastic idea. Yeah. And Palestinians would say, oh, wow, that's so great. That's exactly what we want to do. Why did no one think of this? I mean, I think he's that disconnected from the reality. He knows nothing about the history. There's no evidence he reads or he cares, or he's just told what he's told by the people around him. That's right. There's that. But it is, just as Nora said, just the crude face of American imperialism laid bare. Like, we want Greenland, we want the Panama Canal. That's what US imperialism is. We want Iraq, which was supported by Joe Biden and all the Democrats and Hillary Clinton, but they don't say we want Iraq the way Donald Trump says we want Greenland. They come up with some complicated BS.
Women's rights, yeah.
Well, or whatever it is, women's rights or fighting terrorism or weapons of mass destruction. They come up with some quote unquote humanitarian or security justification for crude imperialism. And Trump doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, I want it. It should be mine. And that's the way he does it. There is another slightly positive aspect to this, though, which is because he lays it bare so naked, it makes it really difficult for those who are collaborating with the US in the region to hide. And so, for example, there's no question that this Saudi Arabia has been dancing with Israel and getting ready to normalize. They were forced to come out and say, no normalization before a Palestinian state, in categorical terms, and to say non-negotiable. And I think it makes the danger plain to Egypt, to Jordan, to other countries, that no matter how good, let's be polite and say ally you are to the United States, it's not going to do you any good. When they want what you've got, they're going to take it. And so you better have a plan B if you want to survive, because that old quote attributed to Henry Kissinger, I don't know if it is Kissinger, but it might as well be, that being an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but being a friend of the United States is lethal. And that's what we're seeing for countries in the region. It makes the danger clear.
Yeah.
The Saudis took 20 minutes to respond to that statement, and it was 4:30 in the morning in Saudi.
They had to. They felt they were so compromised by that statement that they had to draw a sharp, clear line, whereas in the past they've been very fuzzy about what it would take. They were talking about a path to a Palestinian state, just diplomatic fudge language to ease the path to Tel Aviv, to ease the path to have the Israeli flag fluttering over Riyadh. And they were forced by Trump's statements to draw a clear line, which they would lose an enormous amount of credibility if they now backed off that line.
Well, there's always so much more we could say, but the world keeps spinning and the clock keeps ticking, and we're almost at 3 hours. So I just wanted to take a quick look at the website, encourage people to sign up for our email list, subscribe to this YouTube channel or any of the other platforms that you're watching us on. Tamara has an incredible new report detailing the last couple weeks in Jenin specifically, but elsewhere in the occupied West Bank there. I referenced it in my news report at the top. So please check that out. We have some incredible new features by our writers in Gaza.
And that one on the top left there, As One War Ends, Another Begins by Saida Hamdouna, is a really important piece that really underscores what we were talking about with Asem, that the struggle for people in Gaza is far from over because of the destruction and the conditions they're living in. And so that's something to share and to highlight, so we keep people mobilized and keep Gaza front and center.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our duty and our honor, as always. And we also have some incredible analysis and news roundups there under the staff blogs section. So check that out as well. Incredible features this week. Please go check them out. And as always,
and if you missed last week's live stream, you can get a fantastic summary of some of the key points from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿, who has been doing our social media and helping with production, but wrote their first article for the Electronic Intifada, summing up last week's live stream. Absolutely. When we had the really crucial interview with Abid Ayoub of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee about how to protect our civil rights in the Trump administration's newly announced crackdown on Palestine advocacy. So that's also really great stuff.
Absolutely. And thank you, 𝐓𝐿𝐿. And I'll just say thank you, 𝐓𝐿𝐿, for all the social media production and for writing blog posts for the live stream as well. Of course, Tamara Nassar for directing and producing this live stream and all of the podcast and live stream related work that she does in addition to writing and reporting herself. Maureen Claire Murphy, our senior editor, Michael F. Brown for fact checking, everyone at the Electronic Intifada. Again, go to our website, electronicintifada.net, sign up for our email list, subscribe to our YouTube. If you can, donate to keep this vital infrastructure running. And on behalf of myself, Jon, Asa, Ali, Tamara, thank you all for watching and for listening, and we'll be back next week.